Alex Mckey. Well, you've asked a doozy. Says, I've been wanting to ask you this question for a long time. How do you cope with your nerves when your nerves are frayed and stress levels are off the charts? Have you ever experienced panic attacks? Yeah, totally. Yes, totally. I have experienced an equivalent to a panic attack. I have felt my emotions get past me in a way that I didn't feel like I could control. Absolutely. As I grow older, I learned that I need time. That my particular way I learned how to have big emotions means that when a big emotion comes past me, it doesn't just, sometimes for some people, a big emotion is a 20-minute exercise. It's huge for 20 minutes and then diminishes greatly. For me, it's more like several hours. And having respect for that and being able to remove myself from a situation because I'm no longer going to be constructive has been really important as part of that. Look, I hear the pain in your question too. Stress management is massively, massively, massively important. And we live in an incredibly stressful culture right now. The work hustle culture is stressful. The work-life balance culture is stressful. The political landscape, of course, is stressful. So I would like to just tell you some of my stress mitigating strategies. I've told this story before, but it bears repeating. In around 2009 or so, things were really stressful. The economic downturn of 2008 was still in full flow. Jamie and I lost half of our speaking engagement income overnight. And we were still traveling like every other weekend to do something. So there was not a lot of time and space in our lives, and I was super stressed out, and it was having a real negative effect on my life. And so I stopped drinking alcohol. That was based on having an amazing night at Mission Chinese in New York with 3 of my bestest, oldest friends. I bought the whole bar around, and I was so hungover the next day, I almost didn't make a 1 p.m. flight out of New York because I couldn't literally walk 10 feet without wanting to throw up. And in your 40s, hangovers last for days. And I realized that I don't have that kind of time. So I gave up alcohol for the most part. I still have a glass of wine every week or 2, give or take, but for the most part, no alcohol. I also started meditating, and my meditation practice is terrible. It is a shambles. I am abysmal at the Vipassana meditation I have been doing for 35 years. And still, my meditation practice has given me tremendous amounts of breath around my life, around my emotions, around my relationships. And the last one is sleep, which is really hard to come by at different times in your life. 100%, I fully get that. But my sleep needs, well, I don't know if they changed, but in my 20s, I only ever slept 6 hours a night. And then in my 40s, I realized that my body wants 7.5. That was left to my own devices. My body would wake up after 7.5 and feel fantastic. And I still use that number as a marker, which I literally treat like a bank account and try and get, okay, I only got 6 last night, so I'll try and get another 1.5 hours on the plane at least today. There will be, just as there is with, honestly, I think this, just as there has been over the past few years, a real reckoning with the Me Too movement, and whatever backsliding might have occurred notwithstanding, those sea changes culturally are really interesting to watch how that discussion plays out. And I think there will be a cultural reckoning in America about stress. I think we need one because like the rise and grind culture is one that is, often the messaging is just eating your stress with no end in sight of eating that stress, that you're supposed to like somehow eat it and be fulfilled by it because that's the goal. And that is a ticking time bomb, man. That is not a recipe, for the kind of success that I think of as success. Let me just go back and see if there's anything I missed here. Nathan Huey asks another question about communication. He says, you've spoken many times about adding arrows to your quiver of maker skills. And watching you, I've always been impressed with the Kaizen nature of your communication. You're a joy to watch, and you make people feel valued. Thank you so much. Do you add arrows to your communication skills quiver intentionally, or is it a subconscious result of maturing? It is both. It is totally both. What I will tell you is that with my communication skills, I don't watch every video we put out. We put out one a day. I don't watch every one of them. I probably watch about a third to a half of them. And I learn a lot watching myself talk, watching other members of the team do their videos. I will tell you that the single greatest place to increase your communication skills is on a stage. And it's on a stage where the crowd is in a good mood and is really happy. There is a special magic that occurs when an audience is really loving. And that's what I was dealing with. I talked earlier in this stream about the panel I did at Orlando MegaCon, and that it felt fantastic. And like, it was like back to having some real chops about being present in that room. What I didn't say is that so much of that is based on the audiences. They are there, they're excited, they're happy, they're laughing at the jokes. And every comedian will tell you this. When you've got an audience on the ropes like that and they're just like loving what you're saying, you can start to add so much more. What it is there just becomes this sort of opening where you're like, oh, I can build on that joke and I can add another thing to it. And there is a joke that I tell almost every panel, which I won't tell you now, so it will still be a surprise when I tell it at your panel, that in Orlando, after telling this joke 50 times, I got a twice as good laugh with it because of one small change. And I'm not going to tell you what the change is, but it was like, this is the thing. It's like, I've been holding on to this joke because I love it and it gets a pretty good laugh. And then I finally figured out how to tell this joke just last week after, 6-7 years of telling that joke. That was honestly one of the best parts about touring around the world with Jamie Hyneman and Michael Stevens, was doing 6 shows a week, man. People bought the tickets to see us, and you just get to do so much more with your material when the crowd is receiving. So I find myself wondering, like I said, I was talking to a rock musician earlier this week about performance and about holding the audience and about being present in that room. And I'm really curious about that experience for a musician, right? Because I've always been jealous of musicians for the beautiful temporality of their art, by which I mean there's always a relationship between the listener and the player, whether it's virtual or actual in the room. That relationship exists in time. And there's something about that existing over a period of time that I find really beautiful. But I'm also curious about a musician's experience of a really loving audience. Does that make your playing looser? Does that give you more, does that make you feel like you could try a different solo or play a different kind of key change? Thank you guys so much for watching, and I wanted to briefly mention that you could become a tested member. I know, everybody is competing for you to become a member of their thing. What I want to express to you is that the Tested membership has become such an important part of the Tested family. We get tremendous feedback from the Tested members, and they expand the stories that we can tell and the things that we have access to. And you can become a part of it right now by clicking on the link below. See you in the chat.